Power tools for people.
Scott?
Aye. Here.
Moore?
Here.
Shaner?
Here.
Can we stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Items 2 through 13D today are the consent agenda. You can consider those items to be passed unanimously unless a separate roll call vote is asked for by a councilman. If you want to speak on any of those items, please come up as I read them. If you want to speak on an item not on the agenda, please come up under citizen concerns. Remember to always give your name and address for the record. Reading of the City Council minutes of December 4th, 2023.
You move that?
Oh, I'll move it. I'm sorry.
Second.
Reading of the City Council minutes of December 4th, 2023. 3 is resolution accepting the annual comprehensive financial report. Teresa, you got a crew with you?
Hi, I'm Julie Mahaney, Accounting and Reporting Manager in the Finance Office here at the City. And we have completed the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year 23, and that's what we have on the agenda to accept today. I do want to recognize Randy Corona, as a lot of his efforts go towards completion of this report. But Andrew Grice, he's with our audit firm, Bergen KDV, and he's out of Minnesota. He's come to go over the results of our report today.
All right, good afternoon for having me here today to present the audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2023. I do have a presentation here for you today and wanted to start out by reviewing our independent auditor's report. First, to start out with our role as your auditor and then the role of management. It is management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements, and it's our job as your auditor to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, and happy to report that we're providing a clean, unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion that we can give as your auditor. We also have 2 other reports. We have our report in accordance with the government auditing standards, and this report takes a look at internal control over financial reporting. And we had 1 finding to report this year that related to adjustments needed for the financial statements. And then we also have our uniform guidance report. This relates to the city's federal programs, and for all of the major federal programs that were selected for testing this year, we did give an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on compliance with those programs, no internal control findings, and no compliance-related matter. Last, we have our Iowa Legal Compliance Report. There's certain statutory reporting that we're required to provide as your auditor, and we had 1 finding to report this year. The statutes do require that we do disclose any funds with deficit fund balances at the end of the year, and there were two funds with deficit balances. Typically relates to timing of related activity, but something that City Council should continue to take care of. Next, I wanted to also provide our communications letter. In the communications letter is all required reporting in accordance with audit standards, but it also includes our financial analysis. And it starts by taking a look at the general fund. The general fund did experience an increase in fund balance this year of about 31%, increasing fund balance to just about to $23.5 million for the year. The unassigned portion of fund balance was just over $23 million, and the policy that City Council has established is to maintain a minimum fund balance of 12% of expenditures and a maximum of 20%, and at the end of the year, the unassigned fund balance represented about 32.5% of general fund expenditures, which is about 3 months of expenditures at 2023 levels.
Why is that?
And, just based on revenue and expenditure activity.
No, I know,
but in terms of
hearing that we're down, I guess I'm just curious, is it not quite as bad? When does this end of 23, so this ended in June?
Correct, yep. Teresa Fitch, Finance Director. There's a few things that play a part of this. One, like I said, the investments for this year were significantly higher than we thought. So we had about $3 million with investment income that we didn't anticipate having. And there's a few other things, some of it's timing, those types of deals, but the majority of it is the investment income, and we'll see that reflective in the budget this next year, that there'll be an increase. There's, a fund balance that's there.
Okay. Going on to the next chart, we'll take a look at general fund expenditures and how those, each of those revenue sources make up the general fund revenues here for 2022 and 2023. And the proportion of revenue streams remain fairly consistent between 2022 and 2023. As Teresa mentioned, the most significant increase was the use of money in property, which does include the investment income that was at less than 1% last year of total general fund revenues, and did increase to about 6% of general fund revenues here in 2023, with some offsets in those other categories. When we take a look at general fund revenues over the last 5 years, we do see here for 2022 overall that revenue increased about $5.5 million. Taxes increased by $1.6 million with an increase in levy. The use of money and property increased about $3.7 million. And then again, that relates to the investment income for fiscal year 23. And intergovernmental revenue increased about $400,000 that related to commercial industrial replacement revenue here for 2023. Next, we'll take a look at general fund expenditures and how those were allocated by function. And comparing 2023 to 2022, fairly consistent. Public safety, again, being the most significant proportion of general fund expenditures at 71%. Compared to 73% in the prior year. Culture and recreation experienced an increase of about 1 percentage point, as well as general government, but overall fairly consistent between the 2 years. Next, we'll provide some 5-year history of general fund expenditures as well. Again, with the increase in expenditures, we're seeing the majority of that occur in public safety. That did increase this year about $1.5 million with increased wages, also some benefit cost increases for the year, as well as severance payments. Culture and recreation expenditures increased by about $1.4 million with increased programming and related wages. And then general government increased about just over $1 million. There was additional reinvestment revenue that's a pass-through for certain activities. And with that related increase in revenue, we also saw increases in expenditures in general government. Next, we'll take a look at the enterprise funds. The enterprise funds provide specific services to city residents and do operate and report the financial information like a business. And so we do take a look at total revenues, total expenditures or expenses in these funds to take a look at the income or loss generated by providing that service here for 2023. The water fund did experience a surplus or income of about $3.2 million. If you look at the average there over the last 5 years, that's fairly consistent overall in the years presented. That provided again, $3.2 million in income, and if you exclude depreciation, that is a non-cash operating expense. Gives you a little bit better idea in terms of the cash resources provided by this activity. That was at about $8.9 million in terms of income provided by this activity. And there are capital-related uses as well as debt service requirements, and ultimately, after considering those items, the unrestricted portion of net position, which is the financial health metric for enterprise funds, decreased from $12.8 million to about $12.5 million at the end of the year. Next, we'll take a look at the sewer fund. The sewer fund did experience an increase in revenue this year, going from $30 million to about $37.5 million, so a $7.1 million increase related to an increase in rates as well as usage. There was an increase in total expenses as well of about $1.7 million with increased engineering costs as well as electricity costs, and ultimately generated an income of about $11.6 million. About $17.5 million, excluding depreciation, which did provide for an increase in the unrestricted net position in this fund, increasing from $13.5 million to $16.5 million at the end of the year. So continuing to see some improvement in this fund from negative positions back in the 2019 and 2020 timeframe. Next, we'll take a look at the solid waste fund. The solid waste fund has had consistent operations here over the last 5 years. Was basically break even here for 2023 with a loss of about $37,000, with the unrestricted net position remaining fairly consistent at about $2.9 million, which is consistent in terms of the 5 years. Next, I wanted to highlight the airport fund. The airport fund has experienced some challenges here over the last few years. Here in 2023, revenues were at $2.8 million and expenses were at $5.1 million. So there was a loss for 2023 of $2.3 million. Losses have occurred here over the last several years, and as a result, the net position in this fund, or unrestricted net position in this fund, has decreased to a negative $2.5 million. So wanted to continue to encourage council to evaluate these fund activities, just to again evaluate that the resources provided by this fund are not sufficient to cover the expenses needed to operate this activity. The next chart that we have is to take a look at tax rates here over the last 5 years. 2022 was at a low point in the 5 years presented, and with an increase in levy, we did see an increase in the tax rate going to 15.42%. And if we take a look at the overall tax levy, has remained fairly flat since 2019, 2022, and with the increase in levy, that did increase to about $52.7 million for 2023. That is the highlights of our communications letter and the related financial analysis, as well as our audit reports. Next, I'd just like to open it up for any questions.
Questions? Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Resolution authorizing the police department to accept Burn Criminal Justice Enhancement Grant Program funds for the purchase of a true narc system. 5 is a resolution appointing Heidi Ferens as city clerk, replacing Lisa L. McCardle, effective.
Mayor?
That's okay. I don't want to interrupt.
Is it about the airport?
No.
Oh,
It's on number 5.
Oh, I'm
Reading
sorry.
right now. Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to talk about the
Effective
airport.
January 1st, 2024. Now you can go ahead, sir.
Okay. I just want to thank Lisa for all of her years. This is her last council meeting, and it's really been a pleasure. So,
Thank you.
We all need to thank Lisa.
Been a
26
pleasure.
years of service
All right.
to the city.
You have to know I'm excited about retirement.
oh, I know.
Can hardly wait.
And also, I would like to recommend Heidi as Lisa's replacement. Hopefully, council has found her, as I have, as very much on top of the job in helping, assisting Lisa for the last 5 years.
Carrying me at times.
So, Heidi's here, and obviously you've worked with her a lot, and that's my recommendation to appoint her. Okay, all right.
Thank you. And we're having a party for Lisa at the end of the year?
The 28th.
Okay. I wouldn't miss
There'll be cake.
Just cake, that's it?
That's it.
6 is a resolution authorizing payment to KP Construction for the annual sidewalk ramp repair project. 7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase cyber insurance from Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. Items 8A and B are motions accepting and approving the annual reports. A is the Seniors Advisory Committee, and B is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. 9 are actions adopting construction documents. A is a resolution accepting plans and specs for the Grandview Park HMA overlay project. B is a resolution adopting the construction documents for the South Cecilia Street reconstruction project. 10 are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving a 3-year lease agreement with the Police and Fire Selection for the right to use an online entry-level firefighter test. B is a resolution approving a First Amendment to Transit Station License Agreement for the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 222 for the property at 3038 South Lakeport Street. C is a resolution, a First Amendment to the Funding Agreement Consortium member agreement with South Sioux City, Nebraska for construction of a single-family house at 1805 Missouri View Lane. D is a resolution approving a development and minimum assessment agreement with Road Machinery and Supplies for the purchase and development of land in the Donner Urban Renewal Area. E is a resolution awarding a service provider agreement to Kim Contractors for the masonry repair and stabilization at 308 Iowa Street. 11 are actions relating to property. A is a resolution proposing to sell a vacated portion of the drainage right-of-way adjacent to 3617 West 4th Street Circle. The petitioner is Mark E. Sorensen Jr. I'm kind of confused. I think I understand. Because of how bad this site is, we're selling it a little cheaper. Is that right? Who knows? Anybody? Is this, did you and him come to a price?
Yeah, McMorgan Real Estate Specialist. Yeah, we did come to a price. There was, let's see here. He's actually here right now. Do you want to come up and speak, Mark?
No, I just want to make sure he's on, you're all, you know, you can come up, Mark. I just want to make sure you both guys are on the same page, because.
Yes, we are on the same page.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Okay, that's all I want to make sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry, man. Didn't mean to-
B is a resolution approving a purchase agreement for Jeffrey and Becky Sands for the Railroad Museum Campground Project and authorizing payment. I need to abstain on that. 12 are applications for beer and abstain. I do their tax return, so I need to abstain.
Conflict.
Application for beer and liquor license. 13 is the beer and commission and committee minutes. And I need to abstain on, probably need to abstain on Mark's too. I need to abstain on A as well. Same reason.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? Passes 4-0. Mr. Waters is absent. 14 is a hearing and recommendation vacating a one half of the north-south alley abutting 1918 Rebecca Street. The petitioner is Todd Ruby. P&Z recommends denial of this vacation. The first consideration was approved on December 4th, 2023. The public hearing is now open. Did we get the letter from the missing homeowner?
Wade Scholl, planner. We did not get the letter.
My name is Todd Ruby, 1918 Rebecca Street. I did find out that Menard will not consent to the sale of the alley, so I proposed a compromise to planning and zoning, just selling the northern part of the alley between for 4 houses behind 1918 Rebecca Street, 1917 Isabella, 1921 Isabella, and 1314 20th Street. It would serve the same purpose, and all those houses have consented.
It is generally our policy to not allow vacations to go through. That would create dead ends.
Oh.
So.
And yet, I have already provided you with 4 pictures of 2 different alleys where they have blocked the alley off, and I have additional pictures. One is in 4024 Jefferson Street in Leeds, where they put a barricade across the alley for their own, for the same purpose, for security. And the other one is 2500 Myrtle, where he just extended his chain link fence across the yard. Both houses are in the middle of the street. So I don't understand the selective enforcement of their policy.
Did we sell those whole alleys that he's talking about?
There's some alleys that are scattered around, from my understanding, that the streets has closed for a variety of reasons, but.
Yeah, we close them, but we don't necessarily vacate them.
We don't necessarily vacate them.
But these were closed by the individuals. Like I said, for personal use. One guy extended his backyard across the alley with a chain link fence. My motives are strictly security minded.
Well,
And the 4 houses that I'm talking about that are going to be impacted have agreed have consented to the sale of the property. I don't understand the selective enforcement of planning.
I don't either, because we ought to be doing something about it. I don't agree with selective enforcement either, but until we find out about these things, it's hard for us to know. We don't have somebody driving around every day, but I would encourage you to take a look at this.
Yeah, I know I handed them off to Ron, so I think Mr. Ruby has said that he has an additional list of them, but has decided not to give them over, so.
A simple phone call on my part provided me with numerous locations. I talked to a recently retired sheriff, recently retired deputy sheriff, several police officers that I know, all the guys that I grew up with and went to school with, and they said, yeah, they're all over the city. They don't understand why they're reluctant to grant me the ability to secure my neighborhood.
I don't know, but I got a hard time going against P&Z, but maybe the rest of you are okay. Somebody's going to have to move it.
I have a question. All these properties, they were reported by former sheriffs, deputies, et cetera. Are they confirmed that they were
I've driven by
vacated and sold to those property owners by the city, or
No,
they're just
they just
closed?
told me that they were blocked, that they could not transit the alley, and they were all homes that were in the middle of the block. So you could go one way through the alley, or you could go the other way through the alley, but you couldn't transit the alley from one street to another.
Right, but in those cases that we're unaware of them, they wouldn't be something that we have selected as a council to approve for some unknown reason.
They just arbitrarily did it of their own volition.
Correct. And sometimes enforcement is based on reporting, kind of like fireworks and some of these other things that we're unaware of it unless someone lets us know, because we don't have staff to be patrolling. So in these cases, it's not that we've chosen to allow them to do it and we're choosing not to allow you to do it. We're just unaware of them.
We've had one on the north side that somebody had built a wall out into the alley, and due to the proximity of a telephone pole, there was not enough room for a vehicle to pass. So when we were redoing the street, we approached the residents and we let them know that that had to be abated, that had to be removed. So as we find those, we do try and deal with them. We don't have somebody out looking for them. I mean, you put a wall up in the alley.
But it took me a phone call. It took me a phone call, and I got a whole bunch of addresses and places where the alley is blocked.
But you don't know if those have been vacated or not.
No, I don't.
It could be somebody that put up a wall on their own, and if that's the case, then we would appreciate the list so that we can look into it, because we don't, I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair for everybody else.
Right.
Is there a motion? Then it'll die for lack of a motion, I guess. Is that what happens? Okay.
So I'm just a wage slave, so I'm not very smart. Let me see if I got this clear. You want me to undo the improvements I've made to the alley, and the city isn't going to maintain the alley, and you don't want me to maintain the alley? Is that about some?
You can maintain the alley as long as you allow people to drive through it. But what we're saying is we don't want it closed off.
So you want to allow the homeless people to transit from 20th Street to 19th Street?
That's happening all over town.
Because it's happening all over town, it's all right? I mean,
I'm not going to argue about it. It doesn't pass means that we're not, at this point, wanting to vacate the alley. That's all it means.
okay.
Okay? Gordon Drive Viaduct presentation. It's always good to have our friends from the DOT here. You two traveling alone today? No, there they are. You got more, okay.
Got the boss lady along.
Do you want to do an opening, or do you want me to?
Go ahead. Gordon Fair, City Engineer. Tonight, I have with us DOT, Megan Schultz, Jessica Felix, and Shane
Timkowitz.
Sorry. I drink beer with
It's an
him.
Irish
Can't pronounce his name. Here to do a presentation on the Gordon Drive Viaduct and the current status.
Yeah, this is, thank you, Gordon. Dakin Schultz, 6409 Gordon Drive, Iowa Department of Transportation, Sioux City. We are in the process of trying to determine what the preferred alternative is for the Gordon Drive Viaduct. And as you may remember, it's been about a year ago that you submitted a letter to the DOT following our November 22 public involvement meeting, and you had a list of call them options that you would prefer to see. And so we are here tonight kind of to make sure that all those are still what the city's preferences are. And we'll talk about why here shortly, but kind of want to go through the alternatives. We've spent the past year following the public meeting trying to complete all our field work. We've had archaeological surveys, we've had architectural surveys, we've had surveyors out. We have had utility, underground utility exploration going on. We've been out meeting with anybody who is interested in the project. We are trying to put together as much information as we can. So, alternative one is essentially the replacement of the viaduct adjacent to the existing viaduct. So in this instant, what we are proposing is to replace a bridge, the single bridge or the existing viaduct with another bridge, but we would do it adjacent to the existing. And part of the reason for doing that is with that separation, we feel that construction is a little bit easier. The duration of construction is a little bit shorter. There are some more property impacts with that, but as we've been working through from last year to this year, we've determined that it's less than an acre in the overall impacts. The traffic operation during construction is similar to what you see today, so we can maintain 4 lanes for a majority of the project, the construction of the bridge, the replacement of the bridge. Now, when we do tie-ins and things like that on either end, there's going to be maintenance of traffic issues. There'll be 1 lane, or we'll have detours for short periods of time. One of the things it also does is avoids major modification to the existing viaduct. So it's just a matter of holding the existing one together during construction while we're building the new one, which we'll talk about that a little bit. Alternative 2 is essentially 2 structures, and we're showing alternative 2 on the existing alignment, so it would consume the existing viaduct. We would remove a portion of the viaduct. In this instance, we would leave 2 lanes open, 1 lane in each direction on the north half of the bridge while we're building the south half. So it's a little tough to pick up, but this is call it the new part or the south portion of the bridge. We would remove this portion, have traffic in the existing westbound lanes, 1 lane in each direction, while we're building the south half or the eastbound lanes and the pedestrian sidewalk. Then once that's done, we'd switch traffic 1 lane each direction to the other side and build the westbound. The other thing I want to point out is this one is showing the intersection at Cunningham. That was one of the things that we had shown with or at the public meeting, and it certainly had some support publicly for access into the yards area. So those are the alignments, those are the structures. I want to go back and point out the intersections as well, and the junctions at Lewis. Essentially, on alternative 1, we are showing the partial cloverleaf, which is very similar to what's out there today. This one does not show, we are not showing that slip ramp similar to what you have, the eastbound to southbound. And then the other alternative, we're demonstrating an at-grade intersection. So this is similar to what you would see up and down the rest of Gordon Drive. I want to point out that the options for Cunningham, the options for the intersections with Lewis being the partial cloverleaf or the at-grade are interchangeable. Alternative 1, for instance, this being, I guess I'll use alternative 2, I've got it up there. This doesn't mean that you can only have an intersection with alternative 2.
We could keep the semi-cloverleaf if we chose.
We can, it's kind of a la carte in a way, so. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so the alignment, so the Cunningham, if you wanted this alignment, but you want a Cunningham intersection, that's possible. It just extends that impact down Cunningham Boulevard a little bit further into the yards.
We don't have a slide of what that one looks like?
What's that?
Do we have a slide of what that one looks like or no?
No, we don't. No.
I may have seen it before.
So with the alternative 2 alignment, you've got less amount of impact to adjacent property. Like I said, back when we were looking at it at the public meeting, we weren't sure. We've got a better idea now. Like I said, it's less than an acre between the two. So this one, alternative 1 being the on alignment's a little more difficult operation during construction for traffic, the maintenance of traffic, because we're down to 1 lane in each direction. And when you look at the 20,000 vehicles a day, obviously some of that traffic is going to find all other routes. Most of the locals will, or a lot of the locals will. But if you think about this being the only option across the valley other than Outer Drive without conflict with rail, it is an important crossing. Construction and staging are more complex, and that one should be fairly straightforward. I mean, we are looking at building the bridge twice, essentially. We're looking at building half, tear down half, build half, tear down the other half, build the other half. So the staging certainly becomes a little more difficult. You're looking at constructability, just the proximity of building, say, the south half while you're maintaining the north half. It's more complex. And with that, it takes a little bit more time. Obviously, you're doing it twice. It's less of a bridge both times, but you're still repeating the operation. And then the existing viaduct modification and operations are concerns as well. So we had to close the viaduct last year for, or at least a portion of the viaduct, the eastbound lanes. That viaduct isn't getting any younger. We're going to talk a little bit about the rehab project that's going to occur next year.
How old is it, can I ask?
So yeah, the north portion was built in the 30s as a WPA project. It was like 35. And then the new part is mid-60s. So there's nothing new about it, but, well, we've got some new parts we keep putting on it. But, you know, we did a needs analysis back in the early 2000s. We completed that in 2002. And at that time, we had looked at rehab as a possibility, trying to extend the life of this in a cost-effective manner. And at that time, it was determined that 75% of the structure would need to be replaced. So it's time.
Which is amazing to me, because the old part built in the 30s is better than the new part. With all your new technology and construction knowledge, you wouldn't. I'm serious.
Is there worse traffic though going one way or the other?
What's that?
Is there heavier loads going one way or the other?
I don't.
Or west?
The bridge was built better. They
Yeah.
poured millions of hours of work into that.
Right.
You know, there wasn't even a road on either side of it when they built it, that nothing connected to it.
There was, yeah, and actually, it was going to be kind of a S-shaped route connecting two existing city streets. It sits on, so the DOT doesn't own a whole lot of property. The city owns a lot of it. It's Old Grand Avenue underneath. So it's kind of an interesting character in the
Quite a few years
community.
between
So,
sides.
but the 65, the new technology, I mean, yeah, it seems counterintuitive that the 65 introduced a fracture critical member, and that's one of the areas where we have some of the issue.
Is the median the only thing that connects it? It's not tied together.
They're not tied together.
Yeah, they float each other.
That's why we feel conceptually we can remove half the bridge. Certainly, there's just concern about if, you know, with all the construction next to it, can it take the vibration, things like that.
Are you gonna, what do you put, do you auger cast it though, or you don't pile drive anymore?
So we're still working through that. The soils are not ideal. We did 5 test borings in 2019, and of those 5, Shane, was it 165? Yep. Never hit bedrock at 165.
Ooh.
And so,
Really?
yeah. So in the first 30 feet were a pretty compressible soil. So similar to what we did with I-29, we're looking at some type of soil treatment that we're going to have to do. And we did drilled shafts on the Bacon Creek Bridge and the Floyd River Bridge, I believe. And so it wouldn't surprise us if we had to go something like that. As we get into this more, and we're starting to look at those types of things. If you'll notice on this image here, we've already started looking. This would be the steel option if we were using steel beams. This is about pier placing. This one, you can see, I think there's 57 spans currently. We're trying to obviously reduce that.
And they're steel H-beams?
That's what this would be, is the steel, the beams, the horizontal, not the vertical.
Oh, okay.
So that is where we're at with the viaduct. I want to talk about Bacon Creek a little bit. This is the city channel conduit. And a year ago, as we were discussing this, you know, there was, it was a little over, it's been over a year ago, that the city wanted to partner on to this because of proximity. Certainly made sense. We took this out as well, and you provided comments in December. And your comments were to replace both. There are 3 conduits. This one right here was a 1909 vintage, and that's the one you're having the most issues with, or everyone's having the most issues?
Under the street.
Yeah, it's under Gordon Drive. It is directly under Gordon Drive. The middle conduit is a little more fresh. That one was built in the 30s. And then the other one, that north leg, is that was a 60s product. And that one, there'll have to be some replacement with the outlet portion. But what I'm showing here is at the time we were looking at either replacing just the south barrel or the south and the middle, and there was going to have to be a portion of it replaced anyway, and the city at that time had determined that because we had to replace this south barrel, and there was a portion of the north barrel or the middle barrel being replaced, that you wanted to go ahead and make the improvements and take both the middle barrel and the south barrel out of commission. So this is being shown as a triple 10 by 11. And then so this option, or this one under Correctionville Road, would get filled. This would no longer be in operation either, it'd be one. And the other thing that the city determined at that time in your letter to us was that you liked the north alignment, you didn't want it back under the roadway. So this is the one under the roadway, so this would basically utilize the existing footprint, plus obviously a lot more. The existing barrel's 8 by 10. I'll go back, this is the north one, this is the middle, so.
So why, if you're taking all the property out, why do you have to build a conduit?
We talked about open channel.
Yeah.
So open channel, there was some issues with the open channel. Part of it is it couldn't be just a natural channel. For the capacity required, if you're taking both out, you would end up with you'd end up with a channel like you got.
No,
Lloyd
why do you have to put a top on it? That's a lot of.
Well, it would look just like what you've got in the yards area, the rest of Bacon Creek.
Right.
It'd be an open channel.
Concrete sidewalls.
Concrete sidewalls and concrete bottom.
Is that more expensive than putting precast?
I'll go back and look. There was part of it, the tiebacks and that would reach out into, obviously that would have to be between Correctionville Road and Gordon. The tiebacks were a problem when you're looking at the impacts beyond that footprint. There was safety concerns, probably looking, I think it was 15 feet were the walls.
It starts at 15 feet, could go as deep as 30, and you're in an urbanized area between two city streets. You would end up needing a handrail. In addition, we all know that the drainage in this area, I'm going to call it, there's a consistent drainage, like a standard, and then it gets flashy. But because of the consistency of some of that drainage, there would be an opportunity for folks to potentially urban camp and use it as a shelter, which we all do not want that. It becomes a litter trash can, essentially, because you don't have a top on it, and it becomes a security risk from Homeland Security type of thing, because it can plug up if it doesn't have a top. In addition, this is a highly traveled urbanized corridor, and it truly is your gateway to downtown and the yards. And so you have an opportunity moment to beautify this area as you.
Yeah, but it's half open and half closed up in front of Hy-Vee, and I don't find that.
Oh, the hybrid channel. We did look at that one.
You guys don't like those, but I don't find that offensive at all.
Yeah. There was the elevation between Correctionville Road and Gordon Drive was going to cause a problem for that as well. Your box culvert would have been fairly large. The other thing is then you're building bridges as well. So
No,
Fairmount.
they didn't build any bridges. They just built on top of the box. Am I right? They didn't build a bridge into Hy-Vee. They built on top of the box.
But with this topography, as we start to head, we would need a bridge at Fairmount and possibly at Westcott Street. So you'd be gaining two structures if it was an open channel.
Well, I don't know why that would be any different, but I'm not going to argue. But I'm telling you, they don't have bridges where you're at. I can guarantee. I remember when Fred built those.
So, but we did look at it again.
Well, it might be it's a precast across, but it's not a bridge. It's not a structure. It goes from side to side is all it does.
That could be. I mean, but we actually did look at that, the request of the city. And
I think Dave Carney brought that up, didn't he?
I think they stacked, I think what they did, Shane, is they stacked it and then they stacked it on top and made the roadway. That's why it runs all the way through. That's why you can use it for flood control. A 100-year event goes over the top. It's only done that, to my knowledge, once since they built it 30 years ago, but what the heck, we're good to go if it does.
We'll go back just a little bit. So when we talk about the hybrid, so people understand that, because a lot of people may not know it in front of Hy-Vee, there is another box culvert that goes underneath that open channel.
Right. That's why it's a hybrid.
So that takes the low flow of what you're talking about during non-big rain events that's there. So there's that underlying box.
Right.
Then to Bob's point, when there is a large rain event and it overdoes the capacity of what that box is, it then takes the overland flow.
That's happened probably once since they built it 30 years ago.
Does the box culvert have to be full before it comes up and goes?
Yes,
Yes.
the elevation is high,
Yeah.
difference in elevation.
It was built to go over the top, that's why
Right.
it's grass, so it doesn't wash everything out,
And that's for your,
and they
I
rip
agree.
wrap it.
oh, yep, the sides are rip-wrapped, right?
I mean, there was a series of options that we went through with that, and we can bring those back if there's a desire.
No, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I like that look, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's that offensive. And I know it was cheaper, Fred Davenport wouldn't have done it, I know why it got built that way. And you guys weren't, the state wasn't all for it back then, but it's worked out very well. I don't see anything that does, how that doesn't perform just like the rest of the conduit down there. Probably better, because you don't get the garbage